Okay, so I think we should finish training today. We just have one topic left. And then tomorrow we can have a quick discussion on the assessment questions. So I'll take you guys through the assessment questions tomorrow, and then we can set up the assessments. Okay, so today we're going to do Automation Studio. But before that, there was one thing left which I forgot with regards to Journey Builder. So let's just quickly cover that. Now, if you guys remember, when we did Journey Builder on Friday, we use entry source as data extension. That's what 90% of the times it's data extensions. There is also something called Cloud Pages. Now, when we did Cloud Pages, if you remember, I specifically told you guys that when we are using forms, right? So there are two types. One is using native HTML using the form tag, and the second one was an option which is available in Marketing Cloud itself, which is your smart forms, which will basically allow you to add to data extension, update to data extension. Just a quick recap for those who may have forgotten.
Here, smart forms, you mean smart capture?
Smart capture, yes. Yes. So good, you guys remember. Okay, so there are two, right? So one is smart capture and one is using native HTML form tag. Now, when we were doing smart capture, I also remember telling you guys, and maybe we can quickly look at it. You can just pick up any one. Then, when we are selecting the data extension, just before that, on top of it, there is an option which says, will it be used in Journey? I think, okay, this is not a smart capture. Sorry, my bad. This might be a smart capture. So if you remember, there's this option, right? Use in Journey Builder, and you give a form name. This is not a required field, so you can even untick it. By default, it is unchecked, I believe. But when you are creating a smart capture form, and if your use case is that this will be required at some point of time to trigger a journey, then this thing has to be checked, and you would need to give it a form name. Now, when I say use case of triggering a journey, so let's say you have a form which is taking some input, like this one, for example. When the person submits, obviously the data will get saved in a data extension, but you also want to send out an email, right? Maybe you want to send out a thank you email saying thank you for filling up your form. Sales team will get in touch with you, or something like that. So normally such emails are called autoresponder emails. So if you want to do something like that, then ideally this needs to be checked. So if you come here, there is something which in entry source is called Cloud Pages. So if you want to achieve the task of an autoresponder when a person populates a cloud page, then you will have to use this as your starting source. Obviously, you can, you put an email. The email will be like a thank you email or some information email, or an acknowledgement email telling the person that we've captured your input or something like that. If you want to configure the cloud page as an entry source, you just click on it and it will ask you. It will in fact give you the data extensions which are connected to the smart capture form. If you see, currently in our instance, there are only two. So you can, this is the one I believe which I had created. So just select it. It will give you what is there in the data extension, and say done. Now, if you remember Journey Builder, when we had selected a data extension as an entry source, we had to do a lot of settings, right? We had to select the data extension, obviously. We had to select the schedule. Uh, we had to also select whether you want to look at the entire data extension or you want to look at only the new people getting added to the data extension. So all these settings had to be done. When you select this option of entry source being a cloud page, it's very simple. You just select the data extension associated to your cloud page, your email, and of course, you can do other things as well. You can have an engagement split and things like that. All that is the same. But what's going to happen is as soon as somebody enters the data extension via the smart capture form, it will automatically trigger and send out an email. So that is how you can actually use Cloud Page as a entry source in order to send out emails without too much of configuration. Obviously, this thing can be achieved by using data extensions as well. Instead of using Cloud Page as an entry source, I can use data extension. But then I'll have to, select which data extension, which will be the same one, this one, SMT underscore capture one, sorry, smart underscore D, it will be the same data extension. But then I'll have to schedule it. So maybe I'll schedule it for, let's say, 10 o'clock morning every day. So what's going to happen is all the people who are registering, who are filling up the smart capture form, all the data will get stored in the data extension. And then at 10 o'clock every day, how many ever entries are there, they will receive the email. So it depends on the use case. If your marketer says when the person populates the smart capture form, then immediately send out the email, then this will be the way to do it. Or the marketer says we will only send out the email once every day at a certain time, then you'll have to use entry source as data extension like we did on Friday and schedule the relevant time and set it for daily. So two ways of doing the same thing. The first way is faster, but the only thing is every time somebody populates the smart capture form, an email will go out. The second way will hold all the emails till a certain time, and then all those people will receive the emails once the time is reached. So this is what I'd forgotten to cover on Friday with regards to Journey Builder and Cloud Page as your entry source. Now, let's look at Automation Studio. Automation Studio is available under Journey Builder itself. It's called Automation Studio. Now, Automation Studio, as the word suggests, it allows you to do automated tasks. Again, it has a folder format. I would recommend if you guys want to practice Automation Studio, build your own folders and create your automations within Automation Studio itself in that folder. So again, click here, create a new folder. There we go. Now, when you click on new automation, it looks something similar like Journey Builder, but obviously it's not the same. It's completely different. Unlike Journey Builder, this place has only two starting sources. If you remember Journey Builder, it has multiple entry sources, but Automation Studio has only two, a scheduled or a file drop. 99% of the time, and those people who are who's going to be working on PayPal's instance of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, you'll be mostly doing a scheduled one. But again, it depends on the use cases. I'll explain to you the two use cases for scheduled and for file drop. Now, scheduled, as the word suggests, this automation will run at a particular date and time, and it will run again daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, depending on how you're scheduling it. Now, for example, I dragged schedule here, and there's an option to configure it. Now, if you see, I can select the start date. So maybe I want to do it. I want to start on 1st of August, for example. Time, I can select what time I want to run the I want to start the automation, say 9 a.m. select the relevant time zone, and then repeat, right? So if you see here, you can run it only once, or you can do hourly, daily, weekly, weekdays. Sorry, weekdays is for everybody. It's Monday to Friday, uh, weekly, monthly, or yearly. If I select weekly, I can even, just like Journey Builder, right? I can even select what days of the week it needs to run. If I select weekdays, it is understood it will run every day from Monday to Friday. So this part of scheduling is quite similar to Journey Builder. Again, when do you want to end it? You can end it after X number of occurrences, or you can end it never. So that basically means it will run continuously till you physically stop it yourself. Or if you have been given a date when the automation needs to run, you can give the date and it'll stop on that date. So this is how you schedule your automation. Now let's look at activities. So there are multiple activities over here. If you see, all you will not be using all the activities. So I'm going to cover the mostly used activities in Automation Studio. The first one obviously is email, send email. So you drag and put it here. The send email activity, as the word suggests, it will enable you to send out an email. So if I select this, it will allow me to configure the settings which are required for the email. So what are the settings, right? Now, obviously the settings would be you have to select the email, you have to select the data extension. Basically, all those settings will be there. But it is not as we do it in Journey Builder, or it is not as we do it when we do a manual send. All these activities, remember, it's an automation, right? So what we need to do is whenever you select an activity, you also need to create something called like this is for sending an email. So in this case, it is creating a new send email activity. If you're doing an import, for example, then you'll be creating a new import activity. Now, what do you mean by creating a new send email activity? So in Excel, uh, people used to use something called macros. Macros is basically a set of repeated tasks which you would like to perform. If there are say 8 tasks that you want to perform for an Excel file, which could mean selecting something, deleting a column, adding a column, typing something in. People, what they used to do earlier is they used to have an option to record a macro. When you record a macro, so first time when you say record, you actually do the task yourself. Then it records everything what you're doing. And then when you play back, it will automatically do the same tasks. So the idea is any repeated activities which you are doing, instead of doing the same activities manually every time, just record it once as a macro. And then every time you want to do the activity, just there's a shortcut key, just do the shortcut key and it just runs that automatically. So that's how you can save time. And that's how you can automate the mostly frequently repeated tasks. So this is something similar. You will create a send email activity. In this case, you will be recording an activity which will allow you to manually select the email, manually select the data extension, and the other things which go with an email sent. So let's try doing that. Now these have already been created. We can create a new one. So if you look at it carefully, the first thing it will tell you to do is select a message. So I'm just going to randomly select something. Let's select this one, for example. Next, it will tell me, obviously I have to give a name. So you'll have to give a name, obviously, for it. Now, if you remember this is quite familiar with everybody. So you'll have to select, I'm going to select transactional, the relevant sender profile, relevant delivery profile, if required, needs to be selected here. Click on next. Then of course it is, as I said, you selected the email. The next option is select the audience. So you select the relevant data extension. Let's do this one. You drag it, right? This is targeted area. So you just drag it and put it here. If you have any suppressions or some stuff like that, you can drag it and put it down here. You want to add CC, BCC, you can do all that here. In case it requires to be throttled, remember I gave you guys the concept of throttling. So in case throttling is required, you can do it from here. Finally, you'll get to see the summary. Once everything looks good. Now, I have configured the sending of email activity. So whenever this automation runs at, this is going to start on 1st of August, it's going to run Monday to Friday, every day at 9 a.m. in the morning. What it's going to do is it's going to send out this email and it's going to pick up the data extension, which I've already associated it with. So ideally, what I'm expecting is that that data extension gets updated on a regular basis, basically on a daily basis before 9 a.m. Once it gets updated, when the automation starts for the day, it will automatically pick the data extension, pick the email, and send it out. So this is an example of using Automation Studio to very simply schedule a send. This can be achieved in Journey Builder as well. So don't get confused that why was this not done in Journey Builder? Why are we doing it in Automation Studio? Yes, the same thing can be done in Journey Builder, and you can do it the same way. You can attach a data extension as your starting source. You can attach an email, and the schedule can be exactly like this, and it will work the same way. The reason why we're using Automation Studio is because there are other things which you can do, which Journey Builder cannot do. Now you'll ask me what are those other things. So let's see. Go move this here. Okay. So now there is something over here which is called verification. Verification is quite an interesting activity which can be used. Unfortunately, you may not be able to do that in Journey Builder. In fact, Journey Builder doesn't have an option of verification, but Automation Studio has. Now, what do you mean by verification? So I'll just put this here for now. Okay. Now I've added a verification task before the send email. Now, what will this do? A verification task allows you to check the rows of the data extension before the email actually goes out. So there could be multiple use cases. The first use case is that if you're expecting a certain number of records in the data extension, maybe the marketer says, send out the email only if there are more than 5 records. Otherwise, don't send the email. We'll wait for the next day due to whatever reason. So if you want to do something like that, the verification task will help you. Again, you'll have to configure it. You'll have to create rules. First thing is select the data extension. So we'll select the data extension for the verification task. We'll use this one. Now, currently, when I'm selecting it, when I'm configuring it, this is the record count. This is the field count. And I can have some conditions on counts. So I can say if count is greater than 4. Actually, this works ulta. Count is less than 5. Now, if you see what I've done, whatever I've selected here, it's creating like a query over here, right? So for this data extension, if the count is less than 5, then I want to stop the automation, and then I'll also want to send an email notification, maybe to the marketer, saying that we did not, and I can have the notification, right? I can put the marketer's email address and I can have some message like today's automation did not run as the audience was less than 5. And then this email address could be of the marketing team. When I do something like this, what happens is, so this is the final view, but when I do something like this, what happens is, say it starts on 1st August. On 1st August, it will, first thing it will do is it will verify the data extension. If the data extension has less than 5 records, it is going to stop the automation and send a notification to the marketing team telling them that the audience count is too less or it's less than 5. So we have stopped the automation. Maybe the next day, the data extension gets updated and maybe there are 8 records. When it comes to the verification box, since it is now, it's not less than 5, it will go ahead and it will send out the email. So in this way, what you can do is you can verify certain things of a data extension. And again, it's not necessary. Now I've selected the same data extension, which is connected to the email. But over here, it's not necessary to use the same data extension. Maybe you want to verify something else, which is available in another data extension. You can do that as well. So maybe in that other data extension, there is something which you need to verify. And this email send depends on that. You can use the other data, some other data extension in this verify stage as well. So that is the advantage of using the verification box. You have obviously have the wait box, which is available. Wait works in the same way. In case you want to wait before some certain things happen, you can configure a wait stage. You can have wait in hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, years, or you can wait till a specific time. So it all depends on how you want to configure the wait stage. So that is also available, your wait stages. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Now, the most famous use of Automation Studio is the ability to write SQL queries. Now, I'm not going to sit and teach SQL queries, but for those who don't know SQL, basically SQL, uh, uh, MySQL basically is a language which will allow you to write queries to write queries to pick up records from an SQL database. Now, this language has become so famous that even if it's a non-SQL database, the syntax is normally, you can use it. There are some specific commands which can be used, and these commands are being used now, even here. Uh, when I use an SQL query box, I can query a data extension, but in Automation Studio, uh, you can only query using the select command. SQL, if you Google online, it has multiple commands. But here, you can only use the select command, at least over here in Salesforce Marketing Cloud in the SQL query. Uh, SQL also has something called joins. For those who don't know joins basically allows you to join one or more tables, one or more database tables. The joining normally happens using keys. So if you remember your data extension, they have keys. Uh, so you can actually run select SQL queries and you can do join commands as well. So what do you do with SQL queries? Now, SQL queries will allow you to do filters. Now remember in data extensions, I showed you a filtered data extension. In Journey Builder, I showed you that you can do filters. At runtime, you can create a filter and then you'll get two or more paths, and then you can program each path accordingly. In this one, if I add an SQL query, this box will allow me to query a data extension. I can query the data extension. Um, I can filter it using the select query function, and whatever results come out of the filter, that I can store in another data extension. So let's see how to do this. Now I need to again create an activity. So if let's try creating a new activity. It's going to ask me for the query. Uh, Again, you can query whichever data extension you want. The most important thing is whatever you query, the output of the query, which I mentioned is another data extension, at least that data extension should be a part of your email, right? It should be a part of your sending data extension of that email, because otherwise I don't see any use case of querying a data extension and saving the results in another data extension if you're not planning to use that target data extension as a sending data extension for your email. What is the use case? Now, in most cases, there is a master data extension. A master data extension gets updated at regular intervals, maybe multiple times in a day, or maybe once a day. It depends on the refresh cycle. And this is the same setup, I believe. If you guys are from the PayPal team, then this is a similar setup which PayPal is also employing. So there are multiple master data extensions, or one or more, and they're getting updated, I believe, every day. Now, this data extension has a lot of data, millions of records of data. Obviously, you don't need all that data for your emails. So whenever a marketer will give a, targeting criteria, uh, maybe they'll say, I want to target everybody from China who've done at least 2 transactions in 1 year. Let's say that's an example of a targeting criteria. Now, your master data extension will have records of all countries. It'll also have records of all the transactions. It'll also have records of transactions not only for 1 year, it'll have transactional records of 10, 20, 30 years maybe. So you will have to create an SQL query which will select only people of China, which will only select those people of China who have done at least whatever 1 or 2 transactions, whatever was the criteria, and also select those people who have done these transactions in the last 1 year. So you'll obviously have to give a start date, end date. You will run this query, and whatever is the result of this query, that gets saved in a sending data extension, which will be used for your email targeting. So this is normally how people use SQL queries. They will, create a sending data extension by running these queries and populating data in that sending data extension. The data is pulled out from the master data extension. Since it's an automation, what's going to happen is the master data extension itself is getting updated daily. The automation will also be running daily. That's why whenever the SQL query runs, it will always have the latest data available, which will be used for email targeting. So that's how it works normally. So how to write a query? So let's select our data extension. Take this one. So remember, I have this. This is my data extension. These are the fields. So the query is very simple. Select. I think star works. Star from July underscore DE1. Where let's just quickly look at my data extension. Let's see what data is there. So we're doing July DE, got 8 records. Uh, okay, so let's say age is greater than 12. So then ideally I should get my target data extension should only then have these 2 records, because here there's no age and here it's 12. If I say greater than 12, then ideally I should only get these 2 records of 100 and 200. Let's try that. So where age, let's see if it works. Okay. So when I do validate syntax, it will basically check to see if the way I've written is correct. It seems to be correct. It's not giving me an error. Now, for those who are interested in, I mentioned you can do joins and stuff like that, right? So in case there are multiple data extensions you need to query, then you'll have to, obviously, it won't be such a simple query. There'll be a more complex query which employs outer joins, inner joins, depending on the type of joins you want to do. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritties of joins because that's more into SQL. But I think there are some people in this training who are from the data team. So I'm quite sure that you guys understand the concepts of joining and stuff like that. So you can write those queries here as well. Let's do next.
Mihir, can you just if add one more condition? I just wanted to know how that SQL
Sure,
will.
sure. And or you can use, right? And uh, let's say, and let's do exemp. Exemp is equal to so let's say true. So now I've taken 2 conditions. Age condition is there and ex-employee condition is also there. So you can have an and or you can have an or condition. SQL takes both Boolean operators. So you can use, now when I run this, ideally I should get only 1 record. If it's true, I should only get this, my record, Mihir record should ideally come, because this is the only one which is satisfying both the conditions. So you do next. Now, it's going to ask me the output of this query. Where do you want to save it? Obviously, it has to be a data extension. So that basically means before doing this, I need to create another data extension. So I need to clone. Remember, I showed you how to clone data extensions. So I need to ideally create a clone because it needs a data extension to save the output. Now, it also depends on your select. Now over here, I'm doing select star. For those who know SQL or for those who even don't know SQL, star basically means I want all the columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want all the 8 columns. So if I want all the 8 columns, then the data extension which I would be creating ideally needs to have all 8 columns. If I don't do star and I say, oh, I just want employee code and I want email address, I want only 2 columns. So then that basically means the data extension which I would be creating at least needs to have these 2 columns. So this one has 8 columns, but when I'm creating a query, if I'm just interested in employee code and email address, then my target data extension should have 2 columns so that it can automatically populate the values in those 2 columns. I don't need to have additional columns. So that's how it works. Now, in this case, I've taken star, I've taken all the columns.
Mihir, how that what will be the syntax then if I want only two?
The syntax will be something like this. So with a comma, right? So emp_code, comma, email addr, like this. If I do it this way, that basically means I'm just interested in these two columns of this data extension. So whatever is satisfying this condition. So in this case, I told you my record is satisfying the condition. So the output will just be 4 and this email address. That's it. That will be the output. For our example, I'm not going to do 2 simply because if I want to do 2, then I'll have to create a new data extension with 2 columns. But right now, what I'll do is I will do star because I have an extra data extension. So when I come to the next screen, it'll tell me I need to give the target data extension where you want the output to be stored. So obviously you should have built it before. Now I had built one before for this one. This has 0 records. This has 6 columns. Great. This is not the one. Okay, I can't use this. So I will need to build one. So let's build it quickly. So this is the one. I'm going to clone it. Copy. We'll call it so I just created a clone. Come back here. I'm not sure if it's refreshed already. Let me see if it's refreshed. Yeah, this is the one. Now, when I select this, there'll be 3 options here. Now, these options I'm quite sure you're familiar. Append, obviously, for those who don't remember, append is if this data if the target data extension already has data, I'm just going to add any new record which is coming out of this query. Only that will be added at the bottom of the data extension. If I select update, then basically it means that this query, whatever I'm running, this is going to the output will be records which are already existing in the data extension, and I just need to update some values. So then I'll be selecting update. If I do override, then basically it's going to flush or delete my target data extension, and whatever output is coming, it will be put in fresh into this target data extension. So again, these are use case based. So if the marketer says that every day new records will be coming in the master data extension, I just want to send out emails to them. Uh, so what you can do is you can use append. So your current data extension, the data is not lost. There's a requirement to maybe keep them. So this data won't be lost, but new records, whatever are getting added to master, they get pushed into the target data extension. Or your marketer will say that uh, the old records will get updated, and you need to keep the same updates in your target data extension as well, because we'll be using them for campaigns. Then you'll have to use the update mechanism. Or if the marketer says no, every time it's going to be a fresh send, so I would like you to flush the target data extension and always keep the latest whatever query results are coming. I want all of them in the data extension. Then you'll have to overwrite it, which will flush the target data extension and then make the entry. So right now I'm doing it this way. Um, Action will override current data, right? This is how it will finally be, and I do finish. So that now is stored over here. So again, on that day, at that time, it is going to run the query. It will update the target data extension. Now, obviously, if I'm sending an email, like I mentioned earlier, I may want to change. Right now, it's not using the target data extension. So what I'll do is I will have to change the data extension which is stored over here, because right now this is connected to a different data extension. But if I'm doing so many activities using SQL, then I might as well use the target data extension as a sending data extension for my email. You can make the change as well. You can edit and make those relevant changes and change your data extension. So this is an example where I will use SQL query. Again, you can have a verify box between the query and send email. Maybe you want to verify some counts before you're sending data. I mean, sending the email. So you can definitely have that as well. Any questions? Now there is one more option. So let's remove this send. There is something over here which is called, let me find it, fire event. Now, fire event is quite cool. An event or fire event is also, in other words, which you're saying you're going to fire a trigger. What do you mean by fire a trigger? A trigger, basically, as the word suggests, when you do a dictionary meaning of trigger, it means that you've done something. Because you've done something, it is going to action. Now, in our case, if you see fire event, you'll have to obviously run that on a data extension. So let's say I'm going to run it on the data extension which I just created. So the SQL is adding to the data extension, right? I'm going to run a trigger event on the same data extension. And what I can do next in Journey Builder, we'll change the entry source. Do you see something which says event here? So I can put an event here. I can select the same data extension because the trigger event is happening on the data extension. So I'm going to select the data extension. And when I do that, so what's going to happen is after Automation Studio finishes its work, now over here, what is the work? At the relevant day and date and time, it will run SQL query. And what is the SQL query doing? SQL query is pulling out data from the master data extension. It is updating a target data extension, which I want to use to send out emails. That is the work it is doing. After it does that, I can actually program Journey Builder to start. So in this way, what I'm trying to do is using Automation Studio, I'm doing all the SQLs, whatever verification, I'm doing all that using Automation Studio. And once that is completed, I am triggering a journey to automatically start. So this is the example where you can use both Journey Builder and Automation Studio. You can use Automation Studio to do all your data crunching activities, data manipulations in an automated fashion. And once that is completed, you can then launch your journey. So this is again another example where you can use a different starting source instead of using a data extension. Remember, if you use data extension, I have no idea why this is not loading. Let's try again. Remember, if you use a data extension as a starting source, you'll always have to schedule it. But if you're not sure when your data is going to be updated, if data is getting updated on a daily basis, weekly basis, hourly basis, then only Automation Studio will be able to, uh, schedule automated schedules by doing this event, fire event. Again, it's not working, but basically what happens is uh, it allows me to select. Let's do something else. Maybe I can do this. Okay. So there's contact data and date based. We'll do this. Pick up the data extension. The same data extension where I'm firing the event on. I can do filtration if required, but I'm not interested in any filtering. I could do scheduling, but I don't want to because then it defeats the purpose, right? I don't want to do any scheduling. And then of course you can have an email. So when I do it like this, again, I'll repeat. What happens is over here, when the automation runs, it will run the SQL query, pick up the target audience from the master data extension based on the SQL query. It will populate the target data extension, which is basically, if you remember, it is this one is the target data extension, which will have the most latest data as per the requirements of the marketing team. Once it does that, it will do this fire event on the same data extension. Now, your journey builder is waiting here. The moment it gets the trigger, the event trigger on that data extension, it will automatically start this journey. It will start the journey, do the relevant activities. Right now, it's a simple email send, but yeah, I could add a filter. I could do whatever I want. But basically, it will trigger your automation can trigger a journey builder launch from here itself, and then it'll end. And then the next day again, same thing will happen. Automation will run at the relevant time. The SQL query will update the target data extension. It will fire an event again, and again the journey will start and run. So that is how you can actually use Automation Studio to launch a journey as well by using the fire event activity. Any questions? Okay, take that as a no. Now this is all about scheduling. Another important thing about, and yeah, obviously if you see over here, you can do SMS push, you can have all those activities as well, just like you had it in Journey Builder. If your client is subscribed for Mobile Studio and SMS, WhatsApp and stuff like that, you could actually have those in your Automation Studio as well. That doesn't change. Now, this is all about scheduling. So I told you earlier, there are two entry sources. One is schedule, one is file drop. This is all about scheduling. Let's look at file drop. The file drop is quite interesting, and even with file drop, the same things can happen. So that doesn't change. We're just changing the source. Now file drop. Now Salesforce Marketing Cloud has its own SFTP server. As an administrator, the administrator can create SFTP accounts and give it to the relevant people. Everybody doesn't get access to this. It only goes to certain people, and then those people are what do you say, are responsible for dropping the data file. Now, when you say dropping the data file, so if your audience data is outside the system, then people can run SQL queries or run bigger queries. They'll create a CSV file, and then this file can be dropped into Salesforce Marketing Cloud SFTP. So this file drop as a starting source allows, once the file is dropped by the person, you can then trigger the automation. You can do things after the file is dropped. Now, normally a person doesn't drop the file because obviously then it becomes manual, and this is all about automation. Normally there is an automated scheduler which will automatically run the query in the third-party database, generate the file, and then automatically drop the file on a daily, weekly, monthly, hourly basis. What we are interested in how to pick up the file. Because what I'll need to do is pick up the file. It's a CSV file, right? So I'll pick up the file. I will import it into a data extension. Once I import it into a data extension, I can do whatever I want. I can run an SQL query. I can do verification, or I can just use the same data and send out an email. I can even fire an event for Journey Builder to, start working. So my main concern right now is to show you guys how to tell Marketing Cloud that this is the file which you need to keep an eye on. The moment you see this file, you start the automation. That is the first thing which I need to show you. And the second thing what I need to show you is, once I receive the file, how do I pick up the file and import it into a data extension? These are two things I want to do. So let's first create the file. So for that, let us use our favorite data extension, this one. So I'm going to export this one. Remember the file headers, when you're doing this, the file headers cannot change. So this is the file. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some new records. So let's say new employee code 45. Just want to copy this. Okay, let's say this is my file. You've got to save it as a CSV. I'm going to give it to CSV. That's the name of my file, file drop. It's stored on my laptop. Okay. Now, we have one software called FileZilla. FileZilla basically allows you to access the SFTP. You can't just access it like normal. This is FileZilla. And only those people who are authorized to drop files will actually have access to this. I will be giving you FTP credentials. It'll be a shared set of credentials if you want to play around. But if you guys want to do it, then you'll have to talk to IT. For those on PayPal laptops, we'll have to check with your PayPal IT. Those who are on eClerx laptops, we'll have to check with eClerx IT and get FileZilla installed so that you can manipulate the SFTP. Those working on personal laptops, you can obviously install it yourself. If anyone needs approvals, I can give those approvals. Now, I will be giving you credentials. It will be something like this, right? So this one will be the FTP URL. This will be username. This will be password. And this is the port. So I have already configured it on my FileZilla, but basically how to configure, I'll show that as well. If you click on these icons here, you'll have to create something called a new site. And if you see, I've entered the stuff over here already. It's SFTP, the host, which I just showed you, the username, the password. When I say connect, It will automatically connect. Now, if you see, the left side is my laptop. The right side is Salesforce Marketing Cloud's SFTP. It has 3 folders. Again, it depends on the administrator. Administrator might have multiple folders depending on requirements. Now, in order to use the file drop automation, the data or that file, sorry, needs to be in this folder, import folder. Because Marketing Cloud will be listening and observing if that relevant file is in this folder. So if you see, this folder already has some data, you can ignore that data. The main thing is I need to have my file which I just created in this folder. So let's just locate that file. Downloads. Great. I'm trying to find it. What was the name of the file? File drop, right, guys? Ah, there it is. File drop. So here's the file. I just saw it. File drop.csv. So how do you transfer? Just drag and drop. And you'll notice it is doing the transfer on its own. And it's gone. It's gone to the import folder. Now, like I mentioned, the first thing what I want to show you is how do you tell Marketing Cloud to look out for that file? So when you put the starting source as file drop, just click on configure. Now you get 2 options, a pattern or no pattern. When you say no pattern, it basically means that I will just give the name of the file. In my case, it is file drop.csv. When you say pattern, now again, like I mentioned, nobody's going to manually drop the file daily. Right? It's going to be an automated system that runs a relevant query on the third-party database, creates the CSV file, and then drops the file in the SFTP. So what happens normally is, if files are being dropped, let's say every day, good practice is always the name of the file and then underscore maybe, and maybe the date, month, year. So like if it's today, then it will be file drop underscore 25072022.csv. Tomorrow's file will be called file drop underscore 26072022.csv. So normally, that's one of the way naming convention, right? I'm not using patterns right now, so I'll just use no file pattern. I need to say in which folder to look for. So that's the import folder. That's it. That's the only setting. So I selected whether there's a naming pattern or no, and I selected the folder. Now it's going to be looking out over there. It doesn't have the file name yet, right? Because that will happen in the next stage. Now, what we do is we use an activity. So there's a data extract activity. Oh, sorry, there's an import file activity. So again, I need to configure it. I'll have to create a definition. So let's create a new definition. Since it's going to be an automated process running weekly, monthly, daily, if you want, a notification email can be sent just to ensure whoever has created the automation, or to ensure with the marketing team maybe that today's import happened. If you want something like that, then you can definitely send a notification email. Now, like I mentioned, right, it's going to be looking only in the import folder. Now, in the import folder, it's going to list out all the files. Remember the SFTP, if you saw, had a lot of files. Now, all these files are getting listed here. So you'll need to select that file. I know the name of the file, so I can just do file drop .csv. Just give me a moment, guys. Just 1 minute. Hey guys, sorry for that. Yeah, so I know the name of the file, so I'm just typing it here. File drop.csv. It's already found the file. So it's very important when you're doing this activity, you have a copy of the file first. Even if the file is empty and it does not have data, that's still okay. But at least the file should be there in SFTP so that it can locate the file. If you don't get this green tick, it's not going to let you go next. I think the new version of Marketing Cloud allows you to do it, but I'm not sure. But nonetheless, what I would recommend is whatever is the final output of the file, how the file is going to be with the attributes, at least have that ready. It could even have dummy data, that's still okay, but at least keep a copy of that on the SFTP. You can type the name of the file, or you can locate it. Locating will always be difficult because there'll be many files. If you know the name of the file, just type it out. It will find the file. Now these steps should be similar. I'm sure you guys have noticed. Now, what I'm going to do is I want this to get into a data extension. So I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it here. This is the one we had created, so I'm going to put it here. Now the mapping, we've done this before. Um, Now I'm going to use the header row because it was the same file which had exported, right? The data extension itself had exported, so I don't really need to bother. It's going to match one-on-one. You have options here. I'm going to take the override option for now. You can review what all you have done. This is the mapping, how it's going to happen, and finish. We have set it up. So what's going to happen is when the file drop happens in the SFTP, it is going to say, okay, file has come. Over here, when it comes to this activity, it will import that file into a data extension, and then you can have whatever tasks you want. You can send an email, you can do a verification. That is your wish. So that's how it will work. Now, if you want to see how it's going to work, maybe we can just save this automation. Let's save it. You can activate the automation. Once activated, this automation will run when a file is dropped into the directory. Activate. Now, if you go back out, this is my automation, which is already active. And it will run when a file is dropped. So let's try dropping a file. So come back here. I will reconnect. Import. I will find the file. That's the file. Open it. Obviously, since it was there, I'm just going to overwrite whatever was there here. Let's go back here. If you see, it's already started working. I didn't manually run it. It's automatically started running the activity. You can see what activity is running. Oh, it's done. It's already completed. It's a small set of records. You can check your data extension. If you see, this was what was there in the file. This has come over here. So this, in this way, now this automation is on. I've not switched it off. Again, when the file drop happens, now again, it is not scheduled. So this does not require date and time and all that stuff. The moment a file drop happens, this automation will run. That's how it works. Any questions on file drop? So this is file drop, one of the most important activities for Salesforce Marketing Cloud Automation Studio. Like I mentioned, after this, you can have whatever activities you want. You can have SQL activity, you can have verify, you can send an email, you can have a fire event, whatever you wish, you can do that. Or if you have a journey builder using this data extension, this simple activity of file drop and import will update that data extension with the latest data. And then in your journey builder, based on your schedule, it can use that as a sending data extension and can send out emails. So it all depends on the use cases. Now, whatever we created, right, are all available here. If you go to activities, if you go to import file, we just created this one. So it is available here in this location, right? So in case you want to run something manually, right, if you click here, right, you can run it. In case you want to do some testing and things like that, you can actually run this. When you run this, it will pick up the latest file which is available in this SFTP and it will execute. So, if you want to test out some certain things without the physical process of coming to FileZilla, dragging from here, putting here, and simulating that file drop activity, you can just come here. Since you already created the import file activity, you can come here and just run this. Same thing, we created SQL, right? If you come here, you'll see here. This is what we created, July SQL1. I can run this as well. I don't need to actually run an entire automation to see if it is working, right? So this is the logic which we created. So from here, it is going to, from July DE data extension, which is this one, which has 5 records, sorry. From here, it is transferring it to this data extension, and it's going to overwrite. So if you look at this data extension, it has currently 3 records. So if I run this right now, which I can do, these 3 records will get overwritten completely, and I believe there's only 1 record satisfying this criteria. So if I run this, it will actually run the SQL. It's already executed. If you see the logs, oh, that was fast. It was really fast. Uh, it's already run it now. We can try. You can see if it is still not updated. It's an override, right? Yeah. You see this is updated now because of the SQL query. So this one was satisfying that criteria, this criteria. And since I did overwrite, it deleted all the records and it has updated it like this. So this is how, if you come to activities, you can manually run whatever activities you have built. So in today's session, I built SQL activity, I built a send email activity also. So that will also be there. So whatever activities I'm building for the Automation Studio can actually be tested uh, by coming to your activities tab. Make sense, guys? Now I've created one activity here. This is for my work. Now, if you see, it's got multiple things over here, right? It is running on a schedule. It runs every month on the 15th day of the month at 1 p.m. It'll never end. The next run is going to be on 15th of August at 1:30 a.m. It'll run. Oh, sorry, 1:30 a.m. That's weird. It should have been p.m., but that's okay. So it's going to run at this time, whatever. And it runs. It has an SQL query. It's going to wait for 5 minutes. It's going to do some verification, and then it's going to send an email. So in this way, I have created multiple activities to do some of the tasks which I wanted to do. So that's how your Automation Studio is used. Any questions, guys? Right, I'm going to take that as a no. So this ends your Salesforce Marketing Cloud beginner training. What we'll do tomorrow, I'll give you some assignment today on Automation Studio. I will also give you credentials for the SFTP. So if you guys want, you can even try dropping files and seeing if the automation works and things like that. Right. What we'll do tomorrow, same time, 2 o'clock. I will take you through the assessment questions. I'll basically explain to you exactly what the assessment is about, how to do it, and things like that. Once that is done tomorrow, together we'll set up when to expect the assessment back from you guys. I understand some of you have ops deliverables and things like that. So, I'll be rational. So we'll figure out when to expect the assessment. And yeah, that should actually end your training. The recordings are in place. They're already on Dropbox. Today's recording, once it comes, I will put it on Dropbox. I have YouTube links also. They're also on YouTube. So in case somebody wants, I can send you YouTube links of all the recordings as well to assist you guys. Any questions, guys? All right, no questions. Great, then I'm going to end today's session. Let us talk tomorrow at 2 o'clock when I'll take you guys through all the assessments. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Mihir.